This is the prep packet video for Unit 4, Chapter 9.2, and this is for objective number 3. In this objective, we're going to be working with negative exponents. We've done a little bit of that before, and we'll move into negative rational exponents in just a second. To just give you a quick review, I want you to remember that if you see a negative exponent, the first thing you say to yourself is, make it a reciprocal. So here, I'm going to start with, make me a reciprocal, 1 over x, and then to the 5th. Here I have, make me a reciprocal, 1 over x, then to the 12th. Here I have, it's already in fraction form, but I'm going to pay attention to those directions, and the first thing I'm going to do is make this a reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1 over x is x over 1, or x, and then I'm going to do the power. Here, same thing. First I'm going to say, make me a reciprocal, so that's the same as 1 over x to the 3rd, right? And then this one says, make me a reciprocal, so that instead of being 1 over y will be y over 1. And this one has no exponent on it, so it stays the same. So even though it looks like a division problem in the beginning, it's really a bunch of fractions being multiplied together. And when we multiply fractions, we go across, and we go across, and you'll end up with y over x to the 3rd times 1 times x is x to the 4th. So that's where we're going to stop for just a second, and then let's move on to working with fractional exponents that are negative. So here, just over here, I want to quickly remind you that if I have 9 to the 3, 2 power, I'm going to say 2 is the index and 9 is here, right? So if I have that negative sign in there, the first thing I'm going to do is say, make me a reciprocal. So then it's 1 over 9 to the 3 2's, and that equals 1 over the square root of 9 to the 3rd. So what's the square root of 9? It's 3, and 3 to the 3rd is 27. And again, it may look intimidating, but if you just take this one step at a time, you'll be fine. So let me get rid of that. And here I have 125 to the negative 2/3. The first thing I'm going to deal with is that. And it says, make this a reciprocal. So it's 1 over 125 to the 2/3. And that's the same as 1 over the cube root, because the index is the denominator, of 125 squared, right? The cube root of 125 is 25. Please don't forget to keep your fractions going. Sorry, the cube root of 125 is 5. I was so busy worried about the fractions. 5, and then I'm going to square that. And 1/5 times 1/5 is 1/25. So again, the first thing I did was make it a reciprocal. Get rid of that. I made it a reciprocal, and then I took the index and made it, or the denominator of the power and made it the index, and then I used the numerator and then squared the whole thing. Again, I went from small to big. So let's take a quick look at this. Number 13, there's that negative sign, so it says make this a reciprocal. So that's my first step. My next step is to use the denominator to make the index. So that's to the fourth, and I put the number or the value inside, and then the whole thing is cubed. So 81 is the same as 3 squared times 3 squared, so that's 4, right? So the cube root, or the fourth root of 81 is 3, and then I'm going to cube that, and I'm going to get 1 over 27. Again, make sure that you are consistent all the way across. Here I have a negative base and a negative exponent. I'm going to deal with this first. So I'm going to make it a reciprocal. And I'm going to deal with that negative sign out front. That's the last thing I'm going to look at. So from here we're going to say 1 over 3 is the index, and then we're going to square it, and then and only then will we make it a negative. So the cube root of 8 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So I have 1/4, and it's a negative. So again, the first thing I did was look at the negative side and make it a reciprocal. Then I set up the radical. Then and only then did I deal with the negative sign. So here, this is a little bit different than we've seen before. Because the base is a fraction and it's in parentheses, this will distribute all the way across. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that, and it says make me a reciprocal. And the me it's talking about is 8/27. So if I make that a reciprocal, it's not 1 over, it's the opposite. I'm turning it over. So it's 27/8 to the 4/3. I took care of that. So now I have, this is my index, right? And here I have the cube root of 8, and I'm going to take that up to the 4th power. The cube root of 27 is, let's change colors. The cube root of 27 is 3, and 3 to the 4th is 81. The cube root, did I really do that? That should be a little 3, not 8. The cube root of 8 is 2, and 2 to the 4th is 16. I can't reduce that because they have no common factors, and that's my answer. So again, the first thing I did was make it a reciprocal. Then I used the fractional exponent to set up my radicals. The denominator is the index, and this is the big power outside. And then I just made it small and made it big. Here I'm going to do the same thing. My first step is to make it a reciprocal. So I have 1 over, and since this is in parentheses, this negative stays with the 27. Right? So then I have 1 over negative 27 to the 2nd. And what is the cube root of negative 27? Well, cube is odd, so it's negative 3. And then I'm going to square that, and in the very end I have positive 9 as my answer. So go ahead. I know this is kind of messy copying, but you'll be able to write much smaller than I can. So please take your time and copy this, and I'll see you in the next video.